location. We're moving to the car. You know, by the fire station. Yeah, for a while. I remember all of that. Right. Okay. It's a big brown building. Okay. With its own parking lot and fenced-in parking. Okay. Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. No, we were right there. Okay. Yeah. But
did they ever start that YMCA over there?
no, they're still waiting for money. They've got some money issues that have to be cleared up. The city is kind of
Oh, who's got the money issues?
the city was putting in all that.
Yeah, they were doing ARPA money.
You know, and when they started putting the finance together, there was a cost overrun. So they're committed. They process to finding money for it. But and I'm certainly hoping they do because
Well, that's the headline piece of ARPA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was touted as the number one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But they were short a substantial amount, 6 or 7 million.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I heard
It is a song, okay.
that. Caretaker.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
Thinking, yes, it's true.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
All right. Ladies, no.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. We got one more here. How are you?
Thank you.
I'm gonna let them know. Yeah, we're ready.
Are you ready for us?
Yes, absolutely. You can be right here, one here, one here. Um, I'll start, then I'll bring Juana. After Juana, she'll go back here, and I'll bring, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay.
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 Make sure your phone on silent.
Let me go ahead and do that thing.
All right, I think we're ready.
Yeah, we're already on our end.
All right, awesome. First, I want to welcome everyone to our press conference. I'm Brother Washington Muhammad. I'm an active and registered member of the Nation of Islam in Toledo and one of the co-founders of CSRN, Community Solidarity Response Network. I want to thank the press for being here, the Frederick Douglass Community Association for allowing us to host the press conference, and thank CSRN and the friends of CSRN that have been supporting us from 2014. Most importantly, thanking the family of the children disproportionately arrested, harassed, and punished by Swanton Police Department. The statement that was sent out to the media and to the public was that CSRN had began its own inquiry regarding Swanton Police Department and its handling of African American children and families in its village. The recent arrest of a minor from their school without parental notification, cited police reporting practices, left us with no other choice other than making this unjust example known, and we intend to continue to pursue the truth in the best of men. CSRN was established in 2014 after the refusal to indict Darren Wilson, who killed Mike Brown, an unarmed teenager. Some of the things that we've done in the past was in the Frederick Douglass Community Center. As well as that, compassionate care forums and college scholarships. What I want to do now is make sure that we hold local leadership accountable. Matters not if they're clergy, educators, police, etc. This is more than a protest, but to bring awareness and exposure and a lapse in service and to close the gap between how we're served as opposed to whites and others. At this point, Juana Hunter, can you give your statement?
Ma'am, would you mind just starting off spelling your name for us, please?
Kawana, and my last name is Hunter.
Common spelling?
I'm sorry.
Common spelling?
Yes.
Thank you.
So basically, my family was put in a position where my children were put in a position where they need And never came to my home to speak to any of my children about anything. And the next day, my son basically was arrested in front of the entire school. And I received a phone call courtesy of the principal, basically letting me know that that had been done. They drove my son an hour away without my knowledge, didn't tell me anything, never took a statement from him, and basically he was forced to stay overnight in a juvenile detention center without so much of a statement of what happened. So basically, my children was dealing with a lot of racism, and they should be allowed to go to a public park with no problem. Yet these white children decided to come to initially take photos of my children or my child at the time. They refused to take the photos of his bruises and everything. They refused to submit that information to the prosecutor, and they filed charges against my children, my two Black boys to be specific. They filed charges against them, and I had repeatedly asked Swanton police chief, the officer that even came out to my home. I asked them repeatedly I told them that I wanted to file charges against the individual that hurt my son. And there was no charges filed against him at all. Like I still have yet still they made it a priority to file charges immediately against my children. So today, I just want justice for my kids. I just want everything to be resolved appropriately and dealt with appropriately.
My name is Anika S. Fields. Spelling of my first name is Anika, middle initial S like Sam, last name Fields, F as in Frank, IELDS. I am here today to support Mrs. Kawana Hunter and her family regarding the racial harassment and the hate crimes that they are experiencing in Swanton, because I myself, I'm a resident of Swanton and I'm no stranger to it. We've come before you a few years ago regarding racial harassment, hate crimes, and our appeals to the police and the former police chief. And there really wasn't much progress. There was the appearance or illusion of wanting to work together, but there has really not been any meaningful follow-up. So we still have a lot of, we have African-American families who are experiencing hate crimes in Swanton. And what Swanton continues to do, unfortunately, with their legal system is they try to change the narrative, and they try to stereotype Black children and make it appear as if they are criminals, even when they're physically attacked. Even when people try to run them over with their vehicles or weaponize the police by calling police repeatedly for Black people just walking down the street and trying to enjoy their own neighborhood and their own lives. The problem is that nobody speaks up. So we're asking that people speak up. We're asking that pressure be applied to require either processes or standards that are fair to people of color. The community has gotten away with this for so long, and they've employed these tactics in terms of being a sundown town, and in terms of even stopping multiple African-American people just driving through Swanton, to the point where most African-American families have just decided to move away. There are many families who have had these same issues and starting to come forward. And we've asked for help. We've asked to be treated fairly, because anyone should be able to live where they choose to live, and enjoy their neighborhood, to be able to walk down their street, to not have the police weaponized. And African-American families in that neighborhood deserve to be treated not as second-class citizens where their experiences don't matter. This behavior is causing trauma to our youth. This behavior is reinforcing a lot of those old racist behaviors, and folks need to be held accountable. We've offered solutions. Myself and Mrs. Hunter, Mr. Hunter have offered to be part of council's solution, and we have yet to hear from anyone. We offered this before in the past, and again, it was just an illusion of just taking the steps or going through the motions. But we're asking help from everyone at this point to reach out. And the reason it is important is because if it could happen here in this town, it can happen anywhere. So it's everybody's problem at this point, because until we stand up and say, not anymore, until this legal system treats African-American families fairly when they are the victims of crimes, it's just going to be a bad situation for all of us. We all bring so much to offer, and until we have the situation addressed, it's going to continue, and people are going to continue to be hurt, and it's just not going to be a good way to live or a good place for anybody.
All right, thank you, Anita. At this point, we're going to open the floor for questions, and just know that CSRN is, and we've been with this from day one, offering all of the solutions, even having a prayer circle at a resident's home, only to have the police call on it. So we're giving Swanton an opportunity to do the right thing now. This doesn't have to go to the next level where everyone is being inconvenienced. We're giving them an opportunity now to do what's right, not only by this family, but all of the families in Swanton that have been racially harassed. So with that, are there any questions?
When was day one? When was your son arrested?
It was on,
Could you come to the mic, please, ma'am?
I'm sorry.
Could you come up to the mic?
Oh, it was on or about May 13th.
And what's the status of his legal situation now?
Well, basically, we have a court hearing on July 5th. And I'm not sure what would take place at that point.
So what was the initial incident at the park? What was it all about?
Basically, my son was being bullied at school, and it basically ended up, I want to say, for lack of a better word, pouring over into the park, the public park. So my children walked up to the park like they normally do, and this particular individual was there with two other individuals who were a lot older than him, and who influenced him to say some things to my children, basically. Yeah, a lot of negative words. And basically, that individual decided to hurt my child, and my child basically told my oldest child, who basically felt the need to defend him against the individuals that hurt him. And instead of the officers taking everybody's statement, they just took the statements of the three white individuals and basically filed charges against my two boys.
Did your son throw a punch? Is that
He did.
okay?
He did.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, did the police come to the park that day?
They did. They came to the park. They spoke to the three white individuals who was in the position with my children, took their statements, and basically the officer came to the corner of the street and sat at the corner of the street for about 30 to 40 minutes. Never came to our house. Our house is like right at the corner. All of my children were outside in the yard. We were waiting for the officers to show up to the address, and he never came. He sat there. He basically, after about 40 minutes, he left from the corner, and the next day, my children went to school, and I just received that courtesy call from Swanton's principal of the high school, and he called me to let me know that the officers was arresting my son, and that apparently something had happened at the park, and since it didn't happen on school grounds, it was nothing that they could do. But he just wanted to extend that courtesy to me and to let me know, because it's not something that happens with my children. So he was like, he was really floored by what was happening. He wanted to understand what was going on.
So he didn't, your kids hadn't had problems before, not on the radar or anything like that?
Never
Okay.
had a problem. My son is a straight A student. And I mean, basically merit and honor roll students, both of them, and never had an issue at school, never been in the system for anything, just nothing, never been in trouble, never even been in a fight. Like, this was like literally their first altercation. And because they defended themselves, they were seen as the aggressors.
And there would have been,
The word they used before they attacked your son. Be specific and tell them what they used. Just say it in the N-word, say the code.
Yeah, so basically, they called my children the N-word multiple times.
And proceeded to.
And then they basically walked up to him and pushed him down on the ground, started kicking him. He had a busted lip. He had scratches on his face. He had scratches on his legs from being kicked on the ground. And he basically, he started crying, and he went over to my oldest son, who was on a different side of the park, to let him know that he had just gotten beaten up.
What are the ages of your kids?
My oldest son is 16, and the other son is 13.
so the one that was hurt on the
Was a
ground is
13.
13, and then 16 comes in,
Uh-huh.
and then 16 is the one that gets arrested at the school.
Yes.
Okay.
What are the ages of the white kids? Do you know that?
That I'm not sure. I can honestly tell you, the aggressive one goes to school with my middle schooler. So he was in the 7th grade. And then it was 2 high schoolers that was with him, who basically told him that he was allowed to call my children the N-word because they gave him the pass to do that.
A pass?
Yes.
What does that mean?
They basically like, well, you're allowed to call them the N-word, like you're allowed to call them that because we have Black friends, and our Black friends tell us that we can do whatever we want to do. So because of that, you're allowed to do that because you're our friend.
So what do you think, Ms. Hunter, would be a solution right now? What would you like to see that could, I don't want to say make the situation better, but could resolve the situation?
I would like to see a mediation amongst the children. It really starts with the adults, because I feel like children do what they see at home. And it does start at home. And I feel like because this child was influenced by 2 older children, I feel that he just wanted to fit in possibly. So it just was unfortunate how everything happened. So I just want to see a resolution amongst the children, but I also want to see a resolution amongst the community, because it's not just the children, it's the adults as well too. Because there's a lot of things, like Ms. Anika said, in coming out to Swanton, the police will follow us everywhere. Like, they follow us everywhere. They're always behind our cars. In the stores, we have people who would walk down other aisles when they see us in specific aisles in the grocery stores. There's just a lot of racism out in Swanton. It's ridiculous, honestly.
In short retrospect to his question, he asked, did your son go punch? However, he didn't ask, did they go punch first, or were they the aggressors?
Yes, the aggressor, the little boy, threw the punch first, basically.
And called them.
And he basically called him
And that was alongside of the activities of retaliation.
Yes,
What has your son been charged with?
basically a felony for,
Felony?
a felony for assault. And they both was charged with that.
Both your children.
Both of my children were charged with
The
that.
13 and the
And the
16-year-old?
16-year-old, yes.
But no charges filed for the white children who,
So they both will be going
To court.
to court?
On the 5th. And basically, they decided to file charges against my 13-year-old after initially sending that officer who was supposed to come out to take our statements. He came out to the home the day they arrested my son to try to get a statement from us, like to try to clean up, because he failed to even give us statements to write out. I actually had to go up to the police station to get those statements myself for the children to fill out. And the officer, when he approached my home to talk to my children, he basically made them feel as if it was their fault, that they should have never retaliated against. They told my children that they should have walked away, is what he told me specifically. They also put my 16-year-old on probation, so he's not allowed to go outside of the neighborhood. He's not even allowed to sit outside on the porch by himself if I'm not in the presence of him. And they took him out of school. He couldn't finish the rest of the school year. The last 2 weeks of school that they had, he couldn't finish. My 13-year-old, after talking to the officer and letting him know that, you know, he had been beaten up, and they basically took my son's statement and basically used the information to file charges against him. So when I went to court for my 16-year-old, I was presented with paperwork for my 13-year-old to show up in court as well with those same charges.
When they came to your house, did they approach you first or did they approach the children first?
They approached the children first, and then my
Is that
children.
illegal?
It is, and my children came into the home and let us know that they was outside.
Supposed to approach the children first.
Right,
So they didn't follow proper protocol.
not at all.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the name of the park in Swanton?
Swanton Memorial Park.
It's still children.
But the children who attacked her, it was a hate crime, because they started out with the N-word, and then they physically assaulted her child, leaving bruises and everything on him. And they haven't filed charges against the white children who commit the hate crime. So it is a hate crime.
And then the 13 is the one that had the injuries.
Yes.
16-year-old injury?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, all right.
And I was present when Mrs. Hunter, when the officer came after the fact to try to clean up the mess. I was present. She kind of flagged me. I was present. I went over and I heard her repeatedly ask the officer and tell the officer she wants to file a report. She wants to make a statement. She wants charges filed against the white children that attacked and beat up her son. She even asked for him to take pictures, and you know, there were so many different problems with the camera. I don't have batteries. I don't have this. But I would love to see if they took pictures on the scene of the white child.
And this is the first day when the incident happened?
This is the second day.
Second day?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the second day. The next day,
And the first day when this happened, your kids were around, so they knew exactly who the kids were to come down to your home and take the statement. It wasn't like the kids disappeared, nowhere to be found, nothing.
they waited right outside because when they came from the park, they told me everything that happened, and I told them to stay outside because we knew the officers were gonna be.
Yeah, you assumed it was something,
Yeah.
so you weren't hiding, nothing
Not
like
at all.
that. They
Not
come
at
to the
all.
door, You talked to them and you explained everything?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. and
But they never came down?
They never came down. He
Okay.
actually came to the corner and just sat there for like 30 minutes and then he left. He never spoke to any of the children over there, never came.
None of your children?
None of them,
Okay.
none of mine.
And I'll add, we also brought this to the city council, where we spoke in front of city council, in front of the police chief, and asked for their assistance. And to this day, I don't believe anyone has reached out to Juana, Anika, myself, or anyone, to resolve this. And we talked about mediation, meaning that there needs to be understanding today, because things are changing. Black people aren't just not living where we're only restricted to. It's not a plantation anymore. We can buy a home, we can live wherever we want. And we deserve the same protection that's allowed to others. And we're asking for nothing less. We're not going back to that plantation thinking where I'm afraid to move here, I'm afraid to move there. And the council knows this. And if we have to go back, we'll go back. We are going to be in court on Wednesday. And we're going to state the case that, yes, mediation should be a part of this, because it was not just her children. It was her children defending themselves. It was a village that the majority overwhelmingly is white. So her children cannot be the aggressor living in that village. So we'll be in court on Wednesday, and we're going to come back and report to our community. Our community deserves to know that some of us that say that we're standing up for justice are doing that. They deserve also to know what we're doing, rather than just speaking words online and not coming out and meeting the people in the public. And for anyone that feels that justice is a high priority, you know where to find us. You know what we are. So some of us might need to get up off of our couches, lawn chairs, and join in this fight, because it's not going away. All right, anytime soon.
I want to make one clarifying comment with regards to Ms. Hunter, and just clarifying, she wants mediation, but ultimately her family did discuss that they want charges to be filed against this boy that attacked and her child, ethnic intimidation and assault, because that's what it was, and it should have never been missed over. And like I mentioned earlier, Swanton has been successful with pushing African American families out of the area with tactics like this.
And I also want to make mention too that in going to court and meeting with the prosecution, that he a lot of information was left out of the report. He initially only had the report of the 3 white individuals. He never had any photos. He never received any. He never received any statements from my children. We basically were told that the photos wasn't given to him because the individual that deals with the photos was on maternity leave. Yet still the charges were filed against my children with that lack of information.
And the park has video cameras that suspiciously were not working at the time of the incident.
Let me take one more question from Antoine.
In the resolution about this, would you like to see those records?
Thank you.
Drop from your kids, from their records, permanently?
I do.
Absolutely.
I do.
Absolutely. I think that's the end goal, that all of the charges be dropped.
And erased.
And
And
erased from their records.
Because that will carry them to the rest of their lives.
exactly.
And they know that. That's why they went straight for an F4.
Right.
That's exactly why, to further disenfranchise our children and our families. If they get that record, then, that affects college, that affects job opportunities, that affects any sort of armed forces services. So it's very strategic. They know what they're doing. They move together in a good old boys network. And people who are uninvolved need to step up and say something, because until people stop, hiding behind the drapes and
That's
actually
right.
step up, nothing is going to change. We need allies, and, rah, rah, great, good job, I'm sorry you're going through this is one thing, but those words, they're words. We need you to step up.
That's right.
We need our allies to step up. This is nothing new. This has been going on for a while, and it's affected many families. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have to take that, but okay.